Welcome back to this video series on how to write narrative descriptive essays. In the past videos, we learned about how to plan an essay, how to write the introduction, how to describe people, how to describe places. Now, in this video, what you're going to learn is to improve on your description. Now, let's get to our document here. Now, there are some very useful techniques that you can apply that can improve your writing. We're going to look at it using this particular paragraph. We waited, but there was no seat for us. We went home hungry. Now, for those of you who haven't seen, who are not aware of what question we're talking about, this is the question from O Level 2021. Let's see what we have here. I've written one paragraph to show you how a mediocre paragraph is like and how we can apply some of the skills here in order to improve on our writing. The first thing you're going to know is how can you improve on your writing? I'm sure some of these things are not new to you, but applying it is another story. Now, let's go through this list here. Number one, 5 senses. We always talk about what we see. We rarely describe what we hear, what we feel, meaning on our skin, and what we taste and smell. So those are the things that you want to try to focus on, try to highlight when you're describing practically anything. Now, the next thing you want to focus on is on using show not tell to describe emotions. Now, remember, emotions, they are the foundation of your descriptive narrative writing. Without that, your writing is just going to be bland. So be very, very careful in inserting sentences, phrases that shows a person's emotion. We always apply this show not tell when we describe emotions. We never say someone is happy. We might say, oh, he was laughing, rather than say he was happy. So that's one very simple show not tell technique. I will show you some examples later on. It is also important to look at other people's reactions to the situation. If there are people around, it's useful to not just focus on the narrator or the main character, but also to look at how other people are reacting to the situation. Now, the fourth thing is adverbs. Adverbs are basically words that end with ly. They help add a little bit more description, I would say, more flavor to your writing. And the last one is time phrases. Now, what are time phrases? A lot of people, when they're writing descriptive writing or narrative writing, they would write then, like this one right here, then, okay, to show a sequence of events. That's pretty boring. I'll show you a list of phrases that we can use. Okay, later on, I'll show you that. So let's look at this paragraph first. Yeah, you can pause this video at this point and have a quick read of the paragraph. Okay, I trust that you have finished reading the paragraph. This paragraph is rather, there's nothing special about this paragraph. It's average, it's fine. There are many things we can do to improve on this paragraph by adding these 5 techniques in there. So I have written another paragraph right here. But first, let me show you the time phrases because they're important. We're going to discuss those things. And the time phrases are, there you go. Yeah. Time phrases are basically phrases like, or words like conjunctions, words like until, when, after, as soon as, before, during, since. And adverbs like at this point, at this time, eventually, finally, from then on, blah, 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 blah. Okay, you can see a long list over here. My favorite is actually using the phrases from here because it allows you to craft what we call like complex sentences. Let's have a look at an improved paragraph from what we had earlier. From here, we're going to improve it to here. Okay, I've written it before I shot this video, so you can kind of see how it is different if you can see how it's different from the previous paragraph. So instead of saying we waited for 30 minutes, I'm going to use after waiting for what felt like infinity. That's a simile, or even hyperbole, exaggeration. A waitress apologetically informed the customers. Apologetically, that is let me just underline that. That is an adverb. Inform the customers waiting outside that we had to wait for at least another hour and that many items on the menu were unfortunately sold out. There you go. Because it was an unusually busy day, right? Fantastic. Let's move on. As soon as I heard that, you see this, as soon as, time phrase, I rolled my eyes, my arms crossed, and my heart pumping fast. This is to highlight an emotion. What kind of emotion is that? You probably can tell. It's frustration, rolling your eyes, crossing your arms. So that's frustration. The narrator is feeling that, but we don't say frustration or I felt frustrated. Instead, we use actions to show that. Moving on, they could have informed us earlier and mercifully saved us from the misery. This is actually a thought process that you are going through. I'm not going to go into the details of that, but for those of you who know, this kind of a way to insert kind of like a monologue. Moving on, from a distance, I heard my mother fervently joining the others waiting in line in a not so polite interrogation of the poor waitress. Now, I heard this happening. Yeah, you heard your mom. And that's one of the 5 senses, right? Besides what you see, we try to include what you hear. And fervently joining the others waiting in line, fervently is an adverb. After we were convinced, again, a time phrase, that there was no way we could dine here tonight, we left the queue. At this point, it's a good one. My mother did not speak a single word. My mother did not speak a single word. That is my mother's reaction. We're talking about people's reactions as well, right? And she was stomping. The space between her eyebrows shrank. She was stomping or adjusting with the sea of shoppers in the shopping mall. This entire sentence is describing another person besides yourself. And they all capture the emotion here: irritation, frustration. We were both seething, and our grumbling stomachs did not help. The grumbling gives this sense of sound. You know how it sounds like, even though more like you felt it rather than like you hear it. Maybe a bit of both. Eventually, we headed home and ended up cooking instant noodles for dinner instead. Yeah. You notice, we are not so focused on what was happening. We were focused on how the event unfolded. So we didn't really explain why. Look here, in the previous paragraph, this paragraph tries to explain why we didn't go to other restaurants. Those things are irrelevant. You don't really have to explain those things. You should focus your attention more on describing, more of coming up with creative words, creative description. So that is how we can improve on a paragraph using these 5 techniques over here. I'm sorry, I have to keep scrolling up and down. If you have missed out on this because I was scrolling the whole time, you can pause this video and read it over and over again until you kind of get how the techniques are being applied. And your task, your challenge for today is, now your family took you to a mall on your birthday. Unexpectedly, your father decided to purchase for you a brand new pair of headphones. You were overjoyed. Now, this is a different story from the one that we have, but use this to write one paragraph and try to include those techniques that we talked about earlier, these 5 techniques. Use them as much as you can, and then we'll see how you do and how your friends do. Write it down in the YouTube comments below, and that wraps up this video series on writing descriptive narrative essays. I hope you learned something from it. If you'd like to learn more, just let us know in the description below, and we'll see you next time.